And it's that time of the night again where we put matters of national interest back on the national agenda. And this time round with a focus on the education sector, because as we know it, the Presidential Task Force on the National Education Reform has been scaling up the activities across the country with the National Education Forum. There's a need for us to get some updates on so far the concerns emerging from stakeholders and what they've been inputting into this document that will finally be out as part of the comprehensive plan for the NDC administration going forward in terms of reforming Ghana's education sector. And that's why we're giving a prelude, of course, doing this examination ahead of time and also equally getting some updates on the National Education Forum. But there's a need for us to start right from here because this is the money bag for the Education Ministry. 29.5 odd million or billion Ghana cedis we're looking at in terms of the budgetary allocation most of the time to the Education Ministry. And this is the last check, which is 2024. In a few weeks from now, by next month, we're expecting the Finance Minister to give us a clear idea of what may happen in the future. But this has been the trend over the years, giving us a stark reality of how this while NDC administration within the 2009 and 2016 brackets, I should say, has been allocating funds to the sector. You see them stopping at the 7.5 billion mark without the free SHS policy, which is representing some 346 percentage points increment at the time the NDC 1 or 2, I should say, was exiting power, and that the former John Mahama administration. We'll come back to look at what they plan to do this time around, but take a look at this. Ever since the introduction of the free senior high school policy, allocation to the sector, especially the second cycle, has shot up tremendously with some 245 percentage points. It's moving somewhere from 8.3 billion in 2017, when the introduction was done, to a nominal figure of some 29.5 billion as of 2024. Clearly, if you're looking at the volume in terms of the adjustments to the, the education sector, clearly you can see that there was a significant amount of, some more inflow of cash into the sector as of 2017 all the way through to 2024, as compared to what's been happening back in 2029 to 2016. But if you're comparing in terms of percentage points, clearly you see that the NDC, John Mahama 1, I should say, has done some significant work in terms of the expansion of the resources, in terms of cash flow, by some 346 percentage points, as compared to what's been happening over the last 8 years with the 254 percentage point allocation. But clearly, in terms of the nominal figures, nowhere near what it is that John Mahama has been doing. Clearly, there's been a significant rise ever since the introduction of the free senior high school policy. A reason for which will be, taking a key or cursory look at that policy, because that will be forming, part of the conversation going forward in terms of what should happen to the national education reform. But clearly, we have a number of sectors in the education sector, basic and tertiary. We've decided to, segment it into for the purposes of just tonight's conversation. So let's start off from the basic education and look at what's been the challenge. Key issues here: 10% of kindergarten age children as we speak are not in school. That's one key challenge that the sector is facing. There are inadequate teaching and learning materials, which is very critical in any education reform, or if you in fact wish to improve the education outcome. So if that's your focus as a country, obviously you shouldn't be dealing with this challenge. The new curriculums we're learning of that will be in force this time round, or has started, clearly need some new teaching and learning materials. We can't keep relying on the old TLRs for teachers. And teachers themselves, in terms of the recruitment issues, are a big challenge, with a ratio woefully inadequate, 1:14 in terms of the Ghanaian allocation, and even the pedagogy and the infrastructure itself, talking about what the students need in terms of the environment and the space and the infrastructure as well for education. Is a bit problematic, even if you're looking at it from the early education sector. Beyond that as well, there's a high drop-off rate when you take a look at our basic education. Part of the reason why President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the erstwhile administration then decided to expand the scope for basic education and to extend it to the senior high school level. But still, with that, there's a big challenge in that sector of basic education, where 30% becomes the drop-off rate, quite significant. And if you're looking at the numbers that are passing through the system, obviously you'd want to scale that up and to drop the cut-off rate below this 30 percentage point, because we want as many as possible to go into our schools, because that's reflective of what the Constitution says about our aspiration as a country, that, you know, progressively or eventually we should be having an entirely free system and access for all in terms of education. But here it is, 1 million, as many as 1 million school children out of school. Basic education we're talking about, and this clearly is problematic, nothing to write home about. And in the case of public schools as well, about 15% of them entirely do not have facilities, ICT, in terms of ICT facilities. Talk about the laptops, the new inventions and technological advancements that many of these advanced classrooms do have. You have 15% of the basic schools. Some would dare say the number is even higher, taking a look at the nuances and what's happening elsewhere across the world. This number may be a bit higher, but looking at our basic term of what ICT should include, about 15% of the schools are cut off. A reason for which many are wondering what then will be the case for our education sector going into the future, particularly when you have as many as 1 million deficit in our classrooms as well, a problem that persisted way before the SYL-NPP administration and goes way back into time. But here's where the challenge is, because if you're looking at schools on the streets, especially in the north, which in recent times we've brought you some reports in our Crumbling Start series, you notice that a number of these schools do not even have the facilities. As we speak, some 5,400 more schools are under trees as we speak, 80% in the northern parts of the country. Quite a dire situation for inner cities, rural communities, a reason for which the demand is that, take a look at this, that the allocations we're making to the basic sector is not as much, right? That's been the criticism. But if you're going beyond it, beyond infrastructure, there are key problems that outweigh even the basic education, because now the scope has been widened to the free senior high school policy itself. And take a look at this, because there are even issues of food shortages. Just late last year, we were talking about the challenge relating to, some food shortage that happened across some campuses, even here in the Greater Accra region. I wonder what the case will be for many who are in the inner cities. Big question as to what we intend to do in terms of addressing the food shortages. The Conference of Heads of our sister schools have equally raised concerns about how the school food supply system ought to be decentralized. Will all these issues feature in the National Education Forum, and what it is that the Presidential Task Force will be doing about this? Because, mind you, parents have also been complaining. They complained as late as last year that they were not involved. The PTA system was dissolved. Obviously, the justification from the government side is that some reforms ought to take place in this new educational outlook that then Educhum Education Ministry was running. But now we see that it's becoming a challenge, and part of the key issues that we're assessing tonight, and also the bigger picture about the out-of-pocket payments for free senior high school, because it's supposed to be free, no payment, and of course, you just get to go to school. But that's not the case if you go onto the grounds. There's a reason for which, if you're taking a look at the 699 senior high schools that we have across the country, the IMF has a verdict on this. I'll give you the verdict of the IMF shortly. And that's very, very crucial to the conversation we're having, because if you take a look at what the IMF is telling us, they believe that, quote, the flagship program for SHS, which covers the full course of secondary education, has helped increase enrollment, which you can clearly see here in terms of the enrollment that we're pointing out to you here, reaching some 56.3 percentage points as of 2022. Clearly, no doubt about that. A lot more people have gone through school. But the verdict of the IMF is that, quote, this is poorly targeted. A reason for which some of the stakeholders believe make a bit more input, get the consent of parents, try and address the out-of-pocket payment system. And then when you do that, of course, you'll be feeding into addressing other challenges that we have in the tertiary sector, because the tertiary sector is way another conversation on its own, because even as we speak, there's a low gross tertiary enrollment rate of about 12% against the target of 40% that we've set for ourselves by 2030. We're still lagging behind. There are financial barriers. The NDC is starting off with free tertiary tuition for these prospective applicants who are now making their way into the universities for the very first time this year. Financial issues remain big. Inadequate financing of the tertiary institutions are also quite a big challenge. And all of these issues are just bringing up the conversation that we're simply getting to tonight to try and look at how Ghana's education system has been faring over the years and getting some updates on the National Education Forum. So all of these will come to play when we move into the next phase of our conversation. But be my guest. This is PM Express with me, Blessed Sugan, brought to you by Syntex Tank. It's also brought to you by Pepsodent Cavity Fighter and Academic Times Journal. Stay. When we get back, I'll tell you who's helping us with the discussion. Thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. Ghana, let's talk about water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have that tortoise on it, then it's certainly not a correct tank. That's right. I'm talking about the tortoise tank, Syntex tank. It is the champion of all water tanks. It is strong and durable, built to handle our Ghanaian weather as well. Whether rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. So, my people, all you need to do, obviously, is to check out your tank. If it doesn't have the tortoise on it, definitely it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call them on 0244 335 168 to buy now or find out more from over 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, it is strong. It is tough. Academic Times is also here because the journal is launching soon with 3 distinctive graphic publication and a journal to showcase and empower students across all educational levels. While the journal and the Tertiary G seeks to ensure that tertiary students, researchers as well, make impact by contributing to institutional and national developments, the High G and Basic G seeks to develop critical thinking and also prepares young minds for their higher education and also ensure that higher and basic school students, those going through the Cambridge and equivalent system, understand the issues of societies and also worlds around them. So the mission is simple: to change the face of academic publishing by delivering research in engaging graphics while transforming complex studies into podcast and also video documentary. So if you're ready to make that impact, simply follow the Academic Times on social media for updates. For more information, you can also visit the journal. It's theacademictimes.com and also the graphics at the tertiarygraphic.com and tertiarygraphic.com as well as the highgraphicgh.com. And as well as the basic graphicgh.com, all of these sites will take you there. So for collaborations, all you need to do is to reach out to them. It's info@theacademictimes.com, or you can equally call 053 050 8034. 34, I should say. So we take that number again, 053 050 8034, and you'd be in touch with the Academic Times Journal. But this is also very important because each time we eat, the food that we eat in terms of sugars are trapped in between our teeth, leading to tooth decay, gum disease, and other sorts of issues such as foul breath as well. So brushing your teeth every morning and night with Pepsodent Cavity Fighter gives you and, of course, your teeth the protection they need, leaving you with 10 times stronger teeth as well. So Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is fortified with fluoride and also calcium and some other ingredients that are sealing those tiny and invisible holes in your teeth as well. So that will definitely prevent cavities and keeps your teeth stronger and your mouth healthy. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter comes in the 175 big family pack, 120 Ejakwa pack, and they also have others in sachets as well. So you can always get what you can afford at any time. So just make sure you are using that toothpaste that brushes your teeth well. Use Pepsodent. That will protect you as well. So for those of you who might want to be on the lookout for that, just be on the lookout for the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, and definitely you will be on track. They have that track record, 25 years, and they're still counting. So be on the lookout for that brand as well. It's bringing us now back to our conversation for tonight, which is focusing on the education sector. Joining us via Zoom is Dr. Peter Partey-Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. Then we have Dr. Samuel Ewuku, member of the National Education Forum, also joining us via Zoom. Thank you all, gentlemen, for your time here on the show. Let me start off with you, Dr. Samuel Ewuku, because obviously you've been across the country. Your members and the members of your team have been arranging quite a number of documents ever since the president went to the Volta region to kickstart the process for the National Education Forum. Bring us up to speed with what we've seen so far. What is it that you've been up to? And of course, Doc, whilst you prepare to join as now, let me just switch back to Dr. Anti first of all, before we come back to you, Dr. Samuel Ewuku, because Dr. Partey, you were also there at that very inaugural session in the Volta region. Did it meet your expectations?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, of course. I was invited to deliver a paper on education financing. And I must say that the enthusiasm of all of us who went there, the quality of contributions that were made, the desire, the burning desire in the eyes of the people there to see a very robust educational sector was something that gladdened my heart. And I must say that you meet varied number of people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different exposures. And all of us were willing to share our ideas to ensure that at the end of the exercise, we were able to contribute to the shaping of our educational sector. Interestingly, whilst we were there, the team also moved to Ho Technical University to have interaction with the community. And since then, they've been moving around. So I think that the interaction was positive, the experience was worth it, and I hope that whatever views that will be collated and presented to the people of Ghana will be a reflection of the aspirations and ideas that emanated from our discussions across the country.
Definitely. Dr. Samuel Ewuku is joining us in studio. He's a member of the National Education Forum. And thanks so much, Doc, for spending some time with us in studio. Peter was obviously with you in the Volta region when you kick-started all of the events there. But what was instructive was the directive by the president asking you to ensure that at the end of the day, our education sector is indeed transformed, because this is not the first time we're seeing this. How has it been so far?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening to your cherished listeners and viewers. It's been fantastic and very tiring at the same time.
I can imagine.
I think it's a task that every patriotic citizen would like to undertake. If you receive such a call from the president, we know that education is a cornerstone. It's the foundation upon which everything is laid and developed. If we want to develop our country, then we need to pay serious attention to education. And you're right, various past presidents, heads of state, they've also done some things in education. They've called for education reforms in the past. Yeah. I think what is very unique about this particular one is the understanding from the outset that no single citizen got the answer to all our educational problems. And the need for us to come together, to bring our views together, to critically review, evaluate, identify where we are and where we want to go, and what are the gaps in between that we need to close. I think that's very unique about this particular one. And as Peter was saying earlier, we have a very elaborate plan to follow. And one of the first mandates given to us per our terms of reference is to organize education forum.
What would you say to anyone who walks up to you to say, I mean, these challenges are already known, just get to work and fix the challenges?
I think it's, to answer that question, is also saying that he's thinking it's only politicians who got the answer to our problems. I think that's what the implication of that. But, you know, the best thing to do, and these days we don't do top-down policy formulation. We do top-down policy formulation, you don't get it implemented. You need to get ownership for any policy you want to do. I have done some work in policy, and my conclusion basically, as I mentioned on the show on Sunday, is that I come to believe that our continent, which we call Africa, is like a forest full of policies. You walk through those forests, you will not see any fruits, right? Because the nutrients, the ingredients you need to put in place, the enablers you put in place for those policies to work, we don't put them.
The reason why I'm asking the question is, if I were, I mean, what is it that you've heard over the last few days as you crisscross the country that we haven't heard before? That is new, that is so unique from these stakeholders that you're now feeding into the policy going forward.
Yeah, you're right to ask that question, but it's saying that, as I said earlier, you get on to work. It's saying that only few people in this country who got answers to the problems we have.
Because the challenges are glaring.
There are so many policies that are roll out in this country, and the citizens stood up against them because their voices were not heard. And we cannot be doing policies like that. As I say, these days, policies need to emanate from the people. It's good to have the idea that this is what I want to do. And when you come to do it, get the people and find out how should we do it. If you want to say, okay, because people give you social mandate or they start a social contract with you, so they voted for you. So whatever you want to do, just do it anyhow you want to do. These days, young people, citizens will stand up against you. Get their views, and I can tell you that what we are harvesting so far is enriching. I listened to one yesterday, as I said, we are not in a position to start talking about the details of what we are harvesting because we are still collecting data, right? We've been to Tamale, we've been to Bolga, engaging citizens in Upper East and Northeast. We've been to Sunyani, engaging people in the Bono East, Ahafo, and Western North. We've been to Ho, engaging Volta and OT. We came to Accra, engaging with the Greater Accra region and Eastern region. Tomorrow, we're going to be engaging people in Ashanti region and going to be engaging people in Upper West, Northern, and Savannah, right? And yesterday, we engaged student unions. And tomorrow, we're also engaging religious bodies, right? It continues. We're going to engage the diaspora online. So we have an elaborate plan to gather a view of all citizens. We've received a lot of input papers. As I was sitting down waiting to be calling, two papers came in, fantastic papers, sharing their views, what needs to be done. I can tell you that if we had not done that, I'm sure some of the actions that government will take will be up in arms. So I think it's always good that as countries develop. No, I've been to many countries, I've worked in many countries. Look, there's no education reform that is done without engaging citizens.
It's fair enough. But obviously you're a citizen as well. I believe that you have your own opinion on what needs to change. I'll take that shortly. But Peter, you're still with us. The point about the presentations perhaps you made when it started off in the Volta region, what inputs did you make? And by extension as civil society, because as I'm reiterating, these challenges are well known in the sector. We'll talk about free SHS shortly, but I just wanted to hear you out.
Yes, before I answer your question, let me add my voice to the understanding that Dr. Elko is bringing to bear in the attempt to make sure that we talk to a lot of people. You see, if we had this conversation in 2017, so many of the challenges that we have experienced with the free senior high school and some of the curriculum reviews that we did at the basic level, we wouldn't have experienced that. So it is very important that we speak to all those that matter, because education affects every single household in this country. Every individual is a stakeholder in the sector. You cannot just box in 3-4 people in a room, or one person who is the minister or the president, just give a direction and everybody will follow suit. You would encounter difficult situations, and if you are not careful with educational policies, it can destroy a generation by just a blink of an eye. And that is why I believe in the model that have been adopted by the committee. And I hope and pray that whatever it is that they are harvesting, they will be something that would transform our education. We spoke about education financing. We basically made 3 points clear that we need to, one, expand the scope of funds that we use to fund our education. And in doing that, we need to pursue efficiency measures in terms of plugging the holes and ensuring that what is meant for education is used for education. We said that we also need to embark on equity financing so that we have a way of ensuring that we are not pushing resources to places where resources are already available. And we are supposed to use education financing to bridge the gap of inequality and not to widen the gap of inequality. And we also said that we need to embark on innovative funding models. There are a lot of innovative funding models that are available now, and we presented that these models should be tried, and we find ways to implement them to ensure
and speaking about that, clearly what comes to mind is the free senior high school policy. If you look at the budget and the allocations I was talking about earlier, out of that 29.5 billion allocation, the free SHS is taking quite a significant portion of that allocation. What recommendations are you then making in terms of the innovative ways to fund that?
Well, so the innovative ways to fund education wasn't specifically for the free senior high school, but you can apply it there. We basically think that you cannot rely on government funds to fund education. I mean, the GOG portion of the amount that is used to fund education. We are thinking that, one, we should legislate the ABFA to fund education, because as it stands now, priorities are given by every government, and depending on the government in place, he might want to shift from education, health to other areas depending on the government priorities. So we are proposing that you look at ABFA you re-legislate ABFA to fund education and then other areas, so that you can get that amount of money supporting the free senior high school. We're also saying that you need to secure another mode of funding for the policy, which would be like a bedrock for ensuring sustainability of the policy. And that would take any other form. It could be a voluntary contribution, it could be a levy, it could be any other thing. So far as it is going to be a source of IGF for the policy, whilst government might not have the requisite amount of money to support it, that money will be there to support the policy. In fact, we were careful not to say that you should allow parents to pay, because a whole lot of ideas come into the basket. But we are saying that there should be a mode of funding the policy that is aside the ABFA and that is aside the GOG.
And I just want us to get into that right with Dr. Oku, who's also here with us. These concerns re-echo what others have sent to you as well. The out-of-pocket payments, particularly for the free senior high school policy. I'm interested in your own personal thoughts about that. It's supposed to be free.
You know, I would gently and diplomatically try not to go into... I don't want people to take my personal view view as well.
Yeah.
What is important is for us to start asking ourselves critical questions. What are the best practices across the world? I think those are the critical questions that we've got to be asking. Education is a key priority for every country. But how you finance that, for it to be efficient, for it to be equitable, is a key consideration for every government. People have said this over and over. Even developed countries, they don't provide boarding facility for everyone, right? It's not done because it's not really the case. You ask my view, is that sustainable, right? Yeah. And this is why the group that's working on the educational finance, they are talking about various models that can support education holistically from KG down to university level. 29-point-something billion was allocated. Yeah. The question would be allocated. Is that
even the? Did they even get the funds?
Yes, that's the question that we need to ask. Did they actually get the funds? It's one thing allocating it, actually providing it. Yes. Countries around the world are trying their best to provide finance, but it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So we need to be very honest to ourselves as citizens. The system we have at the moment, can something be done about it? And everybody will say, yes, something can be done about it. And this is why it is important to engage people to understand what needs to be done about it. People say they should revise the curriculum, they should bring AI, technology driving everything. How should that be done? Because our buildings we have, the school building we have at the moment, they are not even fit to accommodate some of the technological tools we are talking about. They are pavilion, right? If you have technological tools, where are you going to put them? A projector, for example, where will it be? If you have a computer trolley, where are you going to keep it in such a place? So, government is committed to infrastructure development for schools. Every government that's passed in the past, the current, they are talking about infrastructure. We got to be asking ourselves, as citizens, what kind of educational infrastructure do we need for the future? A paper received talk about, I don't have a KG without an open space for children to play. But it's common these days, you see somebody open a KG somewhere, there's no open space for them to play. Can we, as part of this, if that's what citizens want, can we come out to...
So it looks like you're receiving quite a number of memos and a lot of proposals as to what needs to change. How much of an input are you getting from, for instance, the New Patriotic Party? I mean, that's a key stakeholder.
I think,
have you engaged the party, perhaps, knowing that...
The National Education Forum made provision, when we sent the invite, the provision was made for 8 representatives from each of the main parties. And then we also made allocation for 1 person from the other parties. As to whether it was honored or not, that's a different thing.
Yeah, but was it honored?
That's what I say. I've not looked at the.
Yeah, but it will be instructive. I'm asking the question because of what we've seen, for instance, Dr. Yawese do. He's spoken at length about AI training, transforming the education space. You wouldn't leave off that experience, or someone who's just leaving office if you're doing consultations on reforming education.
This is something that I was we were discussing to this committee, Consultation doesn't mean that people should even be there in person. That's why before we even had a launch, we float an email address for people to respond. And that's why most of the papers are actually coming through. So it's NEF @moe.gov.gh. So every citizen can send through. Right. So if people really care about the development of human capital in this country, we expect everybody to contribute, irrespective of where you live, who you are, which political ideology you have. This is about Ghana.
I tell you why I'm asking the question, because of how politics appears to sometimes creep into our education sector. It's part of the challenge, isn't it? I'm sure that if you go through some of the memos that you've received so far, some of these stakeholders will raise the concern. We want to be as consistent as possible on our education policy. If the NDC, which is a political party, obviously you could win or lose an election, you would want whichever government that comes into power to continue with the consultations and the recommendations you'd be putting together as the National Education Forum. How sure are we that, by excluding, I'm not sure that's exactly what you're doing, these political parties, and say the largest opposition NPP, you would have a fruitful deliberation on the way forward?
No citizen is excluded from this consultation. And that is the bottom line. No citizen is excluded. There's every opportunity for every citizen to be involved. When we have the zonal consultation, doors are open. We don't count people come here and lock the door. So any citizen who will say at the end of the day they're not consulted, maybe that the person did take opportunity And we get to move away from even in-person, the technology is free. The email address is there, sit on your computer, bring your input. That will even be a good evidence to say, I've submitted this and I've not seen it reflected, rather than saying, I went to the place and I've said it, nobody heard me. So there's everybody, nobody is excluded from that. You mentioned one thing about politicization of education. No, this has been a burden for everyone across the world. We know that anything about education is a process, a product, is a politics, right? And for once, let's get the process right. If you get the process right, we are likely to get the product right. And if you get the product right, all of us will come together in that political space to make it happen. And politics is what is politics. Politics could be exchange of ideas. Politics could be making things right, correcting wrongs. So if we understand what politics is, we are embarking on a process that will lead us to a product, and all of us come together to make it work. And that is what it is. So every citizen needs to come on board. Colleagues who were traveling from Sonyani to Kumasi today, stop on the way and went to market to engage people. We are harvesting everybody's view and opinion. For once, I will beg citizens to say that there's a point in time in our history that we can all say that this is the right time for us to do things like this. And forget about any political ideology. That is what's destroying us. A paper I wrote some time ago, I talked about political identity and political beliefs. And Ghana will be so politicized that if you make a point, it's linked to a political party. I'm a technical person, right? I have had an opportunity to work outside this continent. 2013, I was called to come and support with a particular project. And I've been doing that since, right? I'm a technical person, I remain a technical person.
Right.
And we all have to bear that in mind, that there's a point in time that we all have to roll out our sleeves and say, Ghana first. And make sure that what is needed to be done for Ghana to move forward, we do it.
So this is a Ghana first.
Let's Ghana first. Let's do it. You know, I had a call to join this committee, right? And when I had a call, I said, wow, this is an opportunity to make a difference. And people who knows me very well, know other people in the committee, you realize that everybody is committed to make this happen. No political affiliation, no political agenda. It is about Ghana. And the president are very, very clear in his remark that he made at the launch. Everybody come on board, no single person.
It must be a national,
right?
Yeah.
So that's really what we need to be doing. The very day that we all realize that when it comes to education, right? There's nothing like a politics issue. I'll give you an example.
Right.
2017, I was invited to support the reform of the British curriculum. A couple of days after, some people went and reported to the then minister that he's brought an NDC person, right? And the then minister, that's Matthew, made a comment when he called the people who sent a message to him. And that gave me confidence that Ghana is moving forward. He said, in the schools, the children there, you don't want any political jersey or identity. They're just children of Ghana who need to be developed to have the best chances in life and contribute to national development.
This is what Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh said?
Yeah, that's what he told the people.
Right.
And the text message they sent to him, he asked them to read the text message. You sent a text message to me midnight. Read the text message. They couldn't read the text message. And for once, I realized that we have an opportunity to make a difference, irrespective of people's, wherever they come from. When they have something to contribute, let's give them a chance. So this forum is about Ghana. Yeah. Let's people come on board. Let's bring the ideas. Let's make it work. If we bring ideas and then we harvest that, put in the document, we are supposed to write a comprehensive report about everything that we have gathered. The second level is to prepare a policy framework. The third one is an action plan. And this action plan, definitely, it needs to be costed. Then if citizens have clearly mentioned where we get resources to implement this, it will be implemented.
I see.
Right.
I'll be asking you shortly about the timelines and when you execute the work and move into the action phase. But let me also bring in Dr. Peter Anti. Doctor, the point about, ensuring that there's a collective will is the reason for which I asked my previous one But looking at what's happening now, do you have concerns as well that perhaps some groups might have been omitted, excluded, and not being part of the process enough?
Well, I think the opportunities that have been created for all of us to submit our ideas makes it difficult for me to agree if some group would say that they have been left out. Of course, when we were doing the launching, we heard the president talking about the late invitation to the Catholic Bishops Conference, and of course that was rectified, and we saw the reps at the forum. There are various avenues that have been created, as Dr. Uku said. They are meeting student leaders. They are going to the markets. They have created a questionnaire that has been circulated widely, soliciting views of people about the way forward for policy like the free senior high school. There is an email account that is also collecting information. So if you really want to contribute to this discussion, if you really care about the future of education of this country, I think that you have an avenue to submit your views. And what I believe in is that at the end of the day, these will be views that are coming from we the people. So you will not have you can't stand somewhere and say that these people have done this and therefore we are not part of it, and then start punching holes like we normally do. When the people owe a policy, it becomes very, very important.
We seem to have lost Dr. Anti there. But yes, critical point there that the opportunity is provided to everyone. But the basis for which I was bringing that up was obviously what we saw with the religious groups and the churches and the bishops' conference raising concerns about, was it an inadvertent omission? Is that how we're describing it?
Not really. I think say is letters were distributed, and as to what happened that the letter didn't get to them is something that we are still looking into. And that actually helped us to re-strategize how we distribute our letters.
So every region you go to now, you invite.
So what we do, the plan was done already. If you see the plan, in every region we have all the groups. So if you take the national level, we invited the Vice Chancellor, the religious groups, the unions, the student, parents association, alumni associations, the traditional rulers, all of that. When we go to the regional level, we then invite the same people at the regional level. Right. Now, letters were distributed by ministry. We use the ministry channel to distribute letters. So when that happened, what we are doing now is making sure that we get a reliable contact among the group and send it to them. Right. Initially, we just assumed that everybody who get the letter will send it to their group. But that didn't happen in the case of the bishop, and we were really apologetic to that.
I get it. Yeah. What are the timelines you're working with now? Because the question is, how soon will you finish? The president is yet to present his State of the Nation address. That will be happening in just a day after.
Yes.
When are you reflecting all of that, giving us a sense of what the true state of education is?
The president is not pushing us. The president wants us to do quality job. And I say that this is like a grounded theory research. Until we get to saturation point, we will not stop. Because issues are coming. We have to meet the student yesterday because some of the issues we harvested from who we need further interrogation with the group. There is an emerging issue now that we think we need to meet trade union Congress, for example. So those things will be happening until we get the saturation point. Then we realize that...
Are you saying you're not working with timelines?
We're working with timeline. We are aiming to submit our first report before the end of March, right? That is our aim. By end of March, we'll submit our first report. As I say, we are not going to just end because, for example, our initial plan was submit the report, report by 10th of March. Right. But then we realized that the issues are coming, we have to probe some of them a bit more, and we ask for extension. And that is what we have to do if we really want to do.
I see you don't want to make personalized statements on some of the key policy issues that have come up. The biggest concern, obviously, would be about the free senior high school policy. I don't want to ask what will likely happen, but how much of a, complaint or propositions number of propositions are you receiving on the free senior high school policy?
So
is it overwhelming you in terms of
before we started this work, we look at the education setup plan. We did some desk review. We did engagement with some individuals who are the key players in the area. We look at the NDC manifesto because that's a social contract.
Right.
Based on that, we came out with 5 pillars. The first one is infrastructure. The second one is education quality provision. The third one is education finance. And then the fourth one is regulatory systems, accountability, and governance. And the final one is research evidence for decision making. Right. So under this, we have a series of sub-questions that anytime we have engagement, we engage. Free SHS is just one of those questions.
Yeah, but how much?
And then we're looking at
how much is it featuring on the agenda? Because
people, yes. So
there are a wide range of issues, but in terms of the applications coming through so far, the concerns coming, would you say that the free senior high school has by far outweighed all of the other focal points in terms of the numbers, the volumes that you're receiving?
I will say that I will not say just free SHS. It comes under what we will call autonomy, right? Autonomy at the school level, at the leadership level, at the parent level. I think that's what is coming clearly when you talk of free SHS. Then the next thing is about quality. Talk of quality provision. People are concerned about the quality of education that the young people are receiving. And then we are now exploring when it's of quality, what does it actually mean? Does it mean just passive-wassy? We want to interrogate a bit more to understand what do we actually mean by quality. Right. Because we want to provide a holistic education. They say discipline is, is an issue in our schools. That's something that people are talking about. Yeah. It's what comes down to the kind of education provision that is happening there. So when we talk about, we're not going to be seen as a free SHS. We know people have different view about it, but we're talking of how do we provide education to our young people that's of quality, and that quality we need to define it together. Wherever you are, wherever you live, wherever you were born, you are receiving the same kind of education. That's a challenge the president is giving to us. There is a northern and southern sector divide. We have the rural and urban divide. We are all citizens of Ghana. Why should we have that differentiated approach in a system where people you live in a particular area, your education quality is different from another person? At the end of the day, we'll be applying for the same job market. If we want to develop this country, those are some of the things that we need to engage people on and find solutions. So anyway, that's why when some friends, colleagues will be talking about, we don't need to consult. I think it's such a defensive-centered approach.
I see.
So I think let's do that.
Right.
Talking about free SHS, what is it? FQIP is,
it's already in the Constitution. I see a number of questions emerging, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. This is what we'll do. I'll take your final words to Ghanaians, but let me hear from Dr. Anti, who lost briefly, and then we'll take that. Doc, apologies, but briefly, you're just landing on the point there.
Yes, so I was just saying that it's important that we are involving everybody in this. Let me make a concluding remarks. I think that we have a real opportunity to change the direction of education in this country. I believe that most people did not get this opportunity to do this during their time, and we have the opportunity to do something that will transform our education sector, that will ensure that every child in this country receive a certain quality of education, irrespective of location, background, or whatever that the person is embodied with. So I would just appeal to the generality of the people in this country to pay attention to the activities of the committee and support them with their views, so that at the end of the day, we will hold the policies that will come out of it, and we will collectively measure the implementation of these policies to ensure that we have indeed transformed our country.
I see.
I believe that. I believe that we cannot miss this opportunity as we have been missing over the years.
All right. We need to go, Doc. Any final words for Ghanaians who are wondering when you'll be meeting them as well?
So it's basically, let's stop depoliticizing education.
Right. You mean let's depoliticize?
Let's depoliticize. Depoliticize education. Education is a free good, and we should all come together and bring our mind to make it work.
Right.
So tomorrow the event is happening in Ashanti region, Kumasi. Those in Ashanti region, make yourself available. And then there's one in Tamale tomorrow as well, UDS. The Kumasi one is happening at KMUST,
right.
And then Kumasi Tamale one is happening in UDS.
So it's open to everyone.
And if you have any view, send a mail to us at nef@moe.gov.
Yeah, and then
GH. We'll receive it. We'll respond. If we read it and we need to meet you in person, we'll
you'll be doing that. And that's Dr. Samuel Ewoku, member of the National Education Forum, giving you an avenue where you can reach out to the team and also to Dr. Peter Partey for joining us from iFirst. Education obviously needs to know politics. It's a national development agenda. It's been wonderful having you here on PM Express. I'm blessed, so that's such a pleasure having you. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.